Oh, hello. Fancy seeing you here. Welcome back to part 3 of my Let's Build a Rustic Home speed build series. As I said, this is part 3 and the final part. We've jumped straight here into doing the bedroom. And I really love how this build turned out and how the bedroom turned out as well. I've skipped a lot of stuff, so before I did this I did the bathroom. I've cut a lot of stuff out because as it is, this video is already very, very long and I didn't want it to be, I think 3 parts is already excessive, and I didn't want it to be 4 parts as well, just for the sake of a bathroom and a laundry and all that sort of stuff as well. So we've just jumped straight into the bedroom, and it took me a little while here to decide what I wanted in terms of making it match the rest of the house and continuing on with the theme of keeping it looking bright and rustic with some new furniture, some old furniture, and keeping that eclectic feel. But I think ultimately it ended up turning out pretty good. I really love the pink and yellow colour scheme I've gone with. I'm not sure what bed this is from, like what pack this bed is from, but I can't remember. But it's beautiful anyway, and I love how it turned out. Utilising some of the same lights that we use downstairs in other rooms, so you know, they haven't replaced the ceiling lights in here, and they're using an old bedside tables, an old dresser, but they got a new bed, so that's nice. They've also installed some shelving, and they've kept the old curtains. It took me a little while to decide what curtains I wanted to go with in this room. I decided not to go with the same blinds as everywhere else. I'm not sure if maybe that was the right or the wrong decision, but you'll see in a little bit. I used some curtains from Cats and Dogs, and I think they look nice in here, and they add a bit of softness rather than keeping the harsh blinds from Snowy Escape, the more bamboo kind of blinds. Just adding some decor here, trying to figure out what colours are going to work best. I think I end up, because I was flipping between a few different lamps, but I think I end up keeping these lamps but changing them to a deeper colour, a more coral or orange colour, which I think balances out the yellow in the bed a bit more nicely. I think the yellow was just a bit too bright. Adding a little clock, a nice little seating area here. I love that chair from Snowy Escape. It's so pretty. I haven't had a chance to use it anywhere though. I think, I went with this armchair from the new Paranormal stuff pack. I think it worked well in the space in terms of keeping the colours together and also matching the style of the rest of the house. Adding in the shelves here like I mentioned before. I also toyed around with the idea of having a window going from the end of the bed into the hallway, but it just felt pointless, so I think I ended up putting a mirror there. Yeah, so there's the window. I end up not liking it. A nice painting that I feel like ties in the colours nicely but also represents the style of the house again. I'm just, repeating the same stuff over and over again. But yeah, like I said, this is the final part, and I'm so glad you guys have been with me for this very first set of builds that I've done on the channel. It's been a lot of work, but I've really enjoyed it, and I think my first videos, I mean, they themselves might not be great, but the first build that I've done for my YouTube channel I think is really nice, and I'm happy with it, and I really appreciate you guys being here and coming along for the ride. It's been fun, and I'm already currently working on some other stuff. I'm working on a new Let's Play, and I'm working on another build, a couple of builds actually I have in the works, so there's plenty of content coming. And in the meantime, you can also check out my content on Twitch. You can follow me on Twitter. All of that stuff will be linked in the description below. But yeah, comment down below and let me know what you guys really liked about this build. I'm really keen to hear what you guys think looked good, what you think worked, what you think you would have done differently, what you liked, didn't like, that sort of thing. Adding some clutter to these shelves because of who I am as a person. Just making it feel a bit more lived in and populated, I know if I had shelves like that, they would not stay empty, so just adding a few different bits and pieces in here. A lot of it doesn't make sense, but we have limited clutter in The Sims 4, and we need more desperately, so I had to make do with what I had. Some books, pencils, magazines, perfume bottles, photo frames, standard stuff. I don't think the pencils really make sense, but it's fine. Well, we won't question it. Those wall pieces looked good, but I ended up choosing these because I think from Knitting Pack, I think because they feel like, because it's a crafty family and they have their craft corner and all of that, it felt like maybe that's something they would have made and had on their wall. Took me ages to figure out what I wanted to go in this little hallway area. Just a console table, a rug, and a little few pieces of decor, but I wasn't sure exactly what console table I ended up wanting to use. I did think about layering some rugs, but I ended up not doing that, just because it didn't look good. So just going along here, adding a few other little pieces, making it feel, again, really cluttered, making it feel lived in, trying to choose plants, trying to choose what suited the style of the house, a mixture of pieces. And again, you can see I've used the lights, same ones that I've used downstairs. I like those ones. I think they're base game, but they feel rustic and old. They feel like they would have come with the house, at least to me. So I've used those in a few different places in the build, including upstairs. I figured upstairs, they've renovated the bathroom, but haven't really had a chance to renovate anything else yet. So that's why we have the doors that look a bit more dented and rustic. But they've continued that wallpaper from the living room upstairs, which I think looks really nice. And then they've kept the paneling in the bedroom and in the bathroom as well. I haven't gone over the bathroom here, but there is screenshots of the bathroom at the end. So I've gone through and I've shown I've shown screenshots of the bathroom, the laundry, those things that you didn't get to see in this build. Look, I didn't do anything super exciting with either of them, so I figured it wouldn't be a big deal to skip them out. But, you know, in future builds, if I do something that I think is really cool, I'll make sure that I do leave those in. Moving on to the last two rooms of the house now, we have the two kids' bedrooms. So one of them is going to be a shared bedroom. I decided in my head that this family had 3 daughters. So they have 2 daughters, an older one, like more like a tween age, and then maybe like a 6 to 8 year old for the other, and then a nursery for a baby in the other one. This room here, the shared bedroom, it gave me a lot of grief. I played around with quite a few ideas before even when I got to placing the decorations, I still didn't really know how I wanted this room to look and how I wanted it to feel. I did think to begin with I wanted to do a little desk corner, but because of the platform, which I was not willing to compromise on, which maybe that was to my detriment, but I decided I wanted to have a little desk corner. And I couldn't make it work. I tried placing 2 desks together. It felt really clunky and large. Then I thought maybe if I add shelves, that's fine, but there's nothing to support them, so I need to try and add in some supports or some beams or some columns or something. That's fine, but I added in shelving to make it feel like a built-in desk area, and it felt really contrived. It wouldn't have been usable, and I decided in the end that it just wouldn't work. I kind of liked how it looked, but the desk didn't hit the end where the pillar was. So I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll stack a few shelves together. So I sized them up, but then it wouldn't have been usable at all, and it just felt pointless. So I ended up scrapping it. The idea is cool, and I'd like to do that in another build for something where I've got 2 desks that fit together that maybe is a more usable space. But here, it just wasn't working for me, and you can see in a second, I'm just like, I came back to it after going and picking up my daughter from kinder, and I was like, yep, no, I'm done with that. So I decided to put a built-in cupboard instead, and I take out the dresser from that little nook area, and I put a desk in there instead. I cut a lot of footage out of this room as well. For me, a lot of the side tables feel massive. I decided to go with the little round glass tables from My First Pet Stuff because I felt like they felt a bit more realistic, not too decorative, and like they suited the room better. But they felt too tall, so I sized them down. But then, because of that, I had heaps of trouble trying to find items that would fit on them to make it feel cluttered and look good, but they wouldn't be floating and all of that. So I spent ages fiddling around with them and trying to decide what curtains to go with. So a lot of the footage from here has been cut out. And I decided to use 3 of the kids' flower rugs and size them down for a little rug accent. And I think I really love that in particular. But by the time I got around to starting to place the decor, I'm like, who are these kids? Like, what are their interests? I pulled out a few art pieces and whatnot, and I think I ended up deciding that the one in red was for the tween who was maybe into art and music. So I've decorated their side of the room like that, and the other one for the younger child, I decided she would be into animals. So I've decorated their rooms accordingly. I've sized them down so they feel like more appropriate height. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but I did it. And it's okay, I guess. Look, I'm not here trying to be all disparaging of my own creations. I really like this house. I'm just not overly happy with this room. I think it didn't really come together the way I wanted. Oh, this dollhouse from Eco Lifestyle. Sized that down and popped it in the middle for the kiddos to play with, which I thought was really fun. Such a nice doll's house. I'm so glad that was an addition to the Eco Lifestyle pack, because it's perfect and I see myself using that a lot. So that was really cool. But overall, the room itself, I didn't really feel totally happy with. I ended up leaving that little ottoman there for the desk. I was toying around with using this particular desk from the knitting stuff pack for ages, but it felt too new. And even with some of the newer items that I have placed in this home, it felt too white, too crisp, too clean, too new, too colourful. It didn't feel like it fit quite right, so I ended up going with the Island Living desk instead and leaving that ottoman there as a chair. If you want that to be usable, if you download this house once it's uploaded, which it will be by the time this video goes live, you can just replace that. But I thought just for aesthetic purposes, that looked really good. I think here I'm just trying to figure out what sort of shelves I want. I ended up giving both sides different shelves because I figured the parents would have just installed what worked best for each child without taking up too much space. And I think it looked pretty decent in the end. But again, just overall, I'm not happy with the way the room came together. But I'm curious to see what you guys think. So make sure you do let me know down below what you think and what your favourite part, and maybe your least favourite part too. Kindly, obviously. The curtains, I decided to go with a larger blind to cover the mesh curtains. I think that was a pretty nice way to resolve making it feel a bit softer and not just blinds, but also keeping that old look of the blinds that we have in other parts of the house. Decorating the shelves, just adding a few bits and pieces. I think I add a lot of wall decals and stuff over here. I decided to, again, just go with the paneling that I've used in a lot of other rooms in the house, and I think it's not something I do in a lot of builds, using the exterior cladding for the interior. I do it a lot, but for accents or a little bit here and there, kind of like a shiplap feel. But in this build, it felt appropriate to have it in a good portion of the house, so that's what I ended up doing here. A lot of those decals from Cats and Dogs especially, and even some of the base game ones are so cute. Adding in some little puppy pictures up there for our animal obsessed kid and some artwork here, so simulating the idea that this kid is into art and she sort of enjoys all of that. But I also didn't go super girly for a lot of this, and even if it was, I think this could be for any child really, and you can make changes to suit their personality pretty easily, I think. So in terms of that, I think it's successful, but I'm still not overly happy with the layout. I did keep the nursery, which we'll be jumping into shortly, a lot more neutral though. Oh, and then up above the shelves there, I've used a thing with like art color wheels and paint samples and stuff like that to sort of indicate more of their arty preferences. So I think that looks pretty good all up. A basket to pop little bits and pieces in, maybe keep jewelry or accessories or small toys or that sort of thing. And then just some small knitted items that they're a crafty family. Maybe mum made them, maybe grandma made them, maybe dad made them, or maybe the kid themselves made it and they're just really talented. A creepy voodoo doll for the art obsessed child. I figure she's maybe a little bit dark. Oh, that's right, I put flowers in that basket. It wasn't for accessories. It's fine, I know what I'm talking about. Don't even worry about it, guys. I know what's happening. Nice little flower. Add in a bit of colour there. But like I said, I did keep it pretty neutral in terms of you can sort of add a lot of different elements and it would wouldn't be hard to change to make it a more neutral room. And then just adding in those lights, keeping it the same as what I've used in the rest of the house. The whole house isn't consistent in terms of light fittings and fixtures and curtains and stuff, but it's not really inconsistent. I wanted to sort of, again, I wanted to make it feel like it was, you know, in the middle of a refurbishment. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I was successful in that. It'd be good to know. I think I just added some nail polish here into that shelf and some cluttered items underneath. Tween girl is starting to want to do nails and hair and that sort of thing. And now we're moving into the nursery. I used the vampire's bassinet here because A, it's gorgeous, and B, I felt it fit the aesthetic of the more rustic home. I end up choosing this like more plaid gingham kind of wallpaper, which I love, and I'm really happy with how this room turned out. This is, contrary to the other kids' bedroom, I felt like this one worked really nicely. There's a few little things here and there. Using the platforms did make it a little bit awkward, and honestly, probably it wasn't necessary to use them. I just really love platforms, okay? And I wanted to use them. But regardless of that, I think even with a few little things, like I end up putting some shelves behind the bassinet there, and moving the bassinet closer to the middle of the room. It's a bit different, but I like how it looks. I mean, maybe it's not practical or something you'd see in a lot of nurseries, but I liked how it looked in the end. Using a few of these little shadow boxes here, I can't remember where they're from. Maybe Tiny Living? I'm not sure I remember entirely, but they're cute. I changed the colour. I did try and keep the palette in here a lot more neutral. I used a lot of greens and orangey rust coloured tones, which is my personal favourite aesthetic, so it was really fun getting to do that. This could be for any gender. I just love the idea. If my daughter in real life was into those colours rather than so much pink, that's the sort of way that I'd want to decorate her room, and it's definitely how I'd like to decorate my room if I had the money. So using those deeper teals and forest greens and rust coloured, you can see the rust colour in the potty there, and playing around with the layout. That was the only thing that I didn't like about this room, is that there's a lot of empty space behind the bassinet. These shelves here look really cool, but then there's a lot of space on the floor as well, so I did struggle a little bit trying to fill up that space and make it feel lived in and natural without being too bare. Also using decals in this room, bunnies and balloons, because why not, you know? And using some more rustic kind of items, like a medieval feeling toy chest, a cute bunny chair, a little Victorian dollhouse, all just very cutesy stuff. And I move around where the bookcase is as well, because I felt like it made more sense to have a little reading corner with a table down in that corner next to the door. So I don't know why, it just looked a little bit better to me. There's a lot of decisions I've made in this in this build, and I'm not sure that they were necessarily the right ones watching the footage back, but I did what I did and I stand by it. Took me a while to decide. I cut out a lot of footage here too, trying to decide what I wanted to go on that table. Kept it pretty simple in the end, with just a little Wabbit tablet and a little light, and then a few little decor objects up in the shadow boxes above, which I thought just looked really cool and kind of finished off the room a little bit. And a lot of clutter on the shelves. I did use a lot of... Oh, I do actually, before I say that, I do love that I used this set of drawers. I think they're base game drawers, with decor, because they do feel so rustic and like they've been around the block a few times, like they've been owned by several different generations of family, and I thought that was a really nice touch to go along with the newer stuff that had been added for the nursery. So that looked really good. I don't remember what the other thing... Oh, that's what I was going to say. That I used a lot of debug stuff here. The My Sims and Void Critter stuff. I think I mentioned this in the other parts, but if you haven't watched those, which I will have them linked in the cards, so that you can go back and easily find them, and I'll link them in the description box below as well if I remember, so you can just click on them and go back and watch those videos from the first two parts. But I forgot my train of thought. Don't remember what I was saying. It's fine. don't even worry about it. A few little wall pieces here. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I remember now. Packs. I've said this in the other parts, but I haven't limited myself on packs here. But if it's something you guys are interested in, we can definitely go through and do some limited pack builds. I've had some comments on previous builds that doing a base game plus 1 pack series could be cool, so we might work on doing that at some point. I won't lie, I'm not gonna be good at it. I'm not good at restricting myself with choice and money, but it could be fun, and I think it'd a necessary challenge to give me a bit of a wake-up call. I tend to just build with whatever I like, but especially to make builds accessible, I think it's a good idea to do some stuff like that. So we'll work on that in the past. We'll work on that in the future. But yeah, just adding a bunch of decor items and debug items, nifty knitting, void critter stuff, some base game decor items, eco lifestyle, you name it. My Sims, I thought they were cute little... I mean, they don't get used... I don't see a lot of people use them actually, but I think they're good for, especially for kids' room decor. So that's cute. And then just trying to figure out where I wanted to put things like the toy chest and the potty, and because there's only one bathroom and it's upstairs. So I figured for a toddler, it's not really feasible to have that sort of down here, upstairs. It would take forever for your toddler and it would drive you nuts. So it's in the bedroom. Using one of the little knitted ottomans, I think from Tiny Living, with a sized down Bluffy, unicorn Bluffy on top, so that's cute. Little Ewoks. Moving out here, I cut a lot of this stuff out because, like, it's a side porch, it's kind of boring, there's not a lot to it, but I used some items from Batu to make, like, a stacked shoe rack, I guess, which I thought looked pretty cool, and it was a way to make it feel like there was... Because obviously this house would have a minimum of 5 Sims, I think. Possibly even more. So you could fit quite a few Sims in here, I think. Especially with some wrangling of the room layouts. So I wanted to make it feel like there was heaps of people living here. And I think that achieved that pretty nicely. And then just doing the old trick of placing photo frames on the shelves against the wall to make it look like they're leaning. Few little plants and a few little decor objects, but it kept it pretty simple out here, and I just used the bulb from Laundry Day stuff, the bear bulb, which I've also used in the laundry for out here because it felt most appropriate. And again, you'll see the laundry when we get to the screenshots at the end. The laundry is nothing special. What I should have done, which I haven't, and I've already edited this, so it's probably too late, but in the next builds I'll try and do some top-down of each floor so you can see each room a little bit more successfully. That might be a good way to do it. It's like floor plan overviews, but yeah, I'll try and remember to do that. At the moment, just trying to decorate this top patio, which I figured would be like a parents' retreat kind of thing. Probably would have been a good place to put rocking chairs, but again, it just didn't feel like it fit nicely, so I ended up just going with a couple of armchairs. I used this, I think, is that from Eco Lifestyle or University? That couch, which I haven't really had a chance to use that much yet. I was going to use the matching chairs, but I didn't want to make it feel like a set. I wanted to make it feel like they've just picked up some items from the op shop or from Goodwill or whatever, from wherever you're from, and some has been made and some's old and some's more new, and they've got this rustic table and a few little hobbled together planter boxes, and you know, you can just sit out here and watch the sunset or the sunrise and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. I think it'd be a nice place to look over Willow Creek on Newcrest, which is where I'm building this. Turned out pretty decently though. Just playing around with a few little wall object items and trying to make it feel a little bit more full, again, because we're going for that very cluttered look. And a few little plants here and there, just to add a bit of greenery, which I think always looks nice. I cut out a lot of this because I've played around with the decor on this table so much, so you'll see things sort of shift around a little bit here and there. And then an easel, because skill building's important, and then just moving those chairs. I used this little vase-looking canister thing from Batu and placed a plant in it, and I think that ended up looking really cool. And then I'm doing a green wall. So I've used some debug items here, which they're quite flat, they're not very 3D. So I also use some other items, like grassy wall items, to make it feel more full and lush, which you'll see in a minute. Using some debug items here just to place some stuff into those planter boxes. You can delete that if you decide to download and play with this house. But I thought just for the sake of it looking nice, for the aesthetic, you know, I popped some plants in there to make it look good. Some more debug items. Because who doesn't love debug, you know? I liked the idea that it was like covered in vines. I wanted a pergola that was covered in greenery, so it had some shade, but it still felt open and felt like it had been there for a while, so I think I was successful in that. Also using debug to place down some decor objects, some plants that didn't sort of clip weirdly and that looked nice and made it feel a bit overgrown. And I found these in debug too, which I thought were a really cool addition to the fence. They ended up looking really awesome. I'm super happy with that. And some trees and whatnot to add here just to make it feel a bit more lush and grown in like it's been there for ages. So you can see I'm adding these regular wall plants, and adding those on each side makes it feel a bit more full. Romantic garden stuff. So there's base game, there's debug, romantic garden stuff in this little section here. But as you can see, when you start placing them on both sides, it makes it feel like there's vines entangled and embedded in that lattice work, which I think is really cool. Jungle Adventure and Island Living both have these ground covers that look amazing on top of pergolas. It's something that I do a lot. Size them up, size them down, place them in different spots and interlace them with a bunch of different types of foliage, and it makes it feel really lush and overgrown, and I just love it so much. It's one of my favourite things to do. There's a base game ground cover there, like a grass, that makes it so there's a bit more texture and a bit more 3Dness to it. So yeah, I think that turned out pretty good. I don't think I added too much more to the top of that pergola. I was wrong. Yep, I know my footage. It's fine, we're fine, this is fine. There we go. So just adding in a few more bits and pieces to make it feel a bit more full. And then we're going in here and finishing off this patio, making it feel all lived in. I decided to do a little, like a home barbecue area. So I've used this little sawhorse looking table, the little grill that came with a base game patch update, which is awesome. I love it. It's so beautiful. Placing a nice bike, some wall planters. Here, I thought I would try wrapping around these that were added in a base game update, which I love, and I really like how it looks actually, but there wasn't any swatches that felt rustic. They felt too new, so I eventually decided to get rid of them and keep the flower arranging table there and place down a few other little decor objects to make it feel like it's not so empty, but not so new that the way that they looked before. So I think I must have cut that out, but yeah, I deleted all that stuff. A nice little picnic table here so that you can go and sit in the sun but still be shaded. So there's a couple of different places to eat outside. I didn't even think about that until I'm watching this back right now. We have a table on the deck, on the patio, and we also have a picnic table out here. But that picnic table, which is from Snowy Escape, hands down is one of the best picnic tables I've seen in this game. It's amazing and I'm so impressed by it. Adding in some terrain paint to make it feel well worn. I did toy with the idea of having little rug stepping stones to the washing line from the laundry door, but it looked awful, so I deleted those. Fire pit with some chairs for the bigger kids and chair for mum and dad. A little birdhouse next to the flower arranging table with some plants to make it feel nice and full, which looked really cute. And it took me a little bit to decide what rug and how I wanted this area to look. I didn't want to overcrowd it, but I also didn't want it to feel bare because the rest of the house is so full. My next house will not be so cluttered, my next upload, by the way, because it's a more modern build, so it didn't feel appropriate. I'm hoping I can make that one be just one video so that you guys aren't sucked into watching 3 videos for one build, but I don't know, I make no promises. It's who I am. I really wanted those to work somewhere, they weren't fitting up on the stairs, so I put them down next to them. So rather than having that set of planter boxes all the way around, I've used those instead. Like, they've grabbed some outdoor pots, planted a few things, and they're sitting next to the stairs, but it still feels pretty open. You can see underneath the deck and all of that. Spending ages trying to figure out what rug I wanted, and in the end I ended up going with another one of these eco lifestyle fabricated rugs. I actually layer 2 together. I used one of these up on the top patio too, and I think it worked really well. It's like another example of using a new item while there's a lot of older items sitting around. So I thought that was nice, because the table's obviously quite old. But they've bought a few pieces to improve and kept the ones that they didn't need to swap out yet. And then making a little barbecue area here that I talked about before. I used this sawhorse looking table, some boxes, some clutter objects, and I placed some food and some like cooking tongs and those sorts of cooking objects up here, picnic stuff. All really cute stuff. I think it worked so nicely, and it made it feel like you could easily come out here and cook and have a barbecue, but it wasn't this big fancy expensive setup that I sometimes do, and I'm sure you guys do as well, in more expensive or more modern types of builds. A few more decor objects, just trying to place it around and make it feel finished, make it feel like it's well resolved, using more of the Betu light wall lights and stuff as well, which we'll see here. Ended up with 2 of those and just moving some stuff around to make it look good. And I decided that I would use... It took me a while to figure out what lights I wanted here. I wanted this to be well lit, but I didn't want it to look ridiculous. But I think I ended up using a couple of the lights from a backyard stuff pack or something. They're little candles, and I raise them up and do different sizes here, change the colours, and I thought that looked really cute. I was really happy with how that turned out. Making sure every area of the yard is lit in some fashion. It doesn't have to be perfect lighting, but I liked that old lantern looking thing. It's really cool. Placing a few of those objects that I wanted to get in. I'm not sure if this was really well resolved, having that light as well, but it is what it is. It's done now. And just placing some lights around the garden, making sure it feels like it looks really good. Like it's well lit, like, you know, you can walk around without tripping over your own feet. And that's pretty much it, you guys. I think we're going to be coming into the screenshots really soon. I raised up some of these lights to be on the fence as well, which you'll see coming up, and I'm really happy with how they ended up looking. But yeah, like I said, I think we're about to come into screenshots. So thank you guys so much for watching, for joining me on my first ever build series. I'm sorry it was long, but I do hope that you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment too. Tell me how you are. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you like to build. Just chat with me. I'd love to hear from you. You can also, like I mentioned before, follow me on Twitter, and I also stream over on Twitch, so I'll make sure I'll have all of that stuff linked in the description box below. Until the next one, I hope you guys all have an amazing time. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone.